One of Murphy's laws is that before you can do anything, you have to do something else first. And the one thing that you have to do first before you can do any productive work is that you have to get yourself organized. The core function of good time management is planning and organizing yourself and your work for maximum productivity. And it is only possible to get the best out of yourself when you have determined a place for everything, and everything is in its place. The top 3% of achievers are all persistent, continual planners. They are forever writing and rewriting their lists of goals. They think on paper, and they are continually analyzing and evaluating their plans. I used to wonder why it was that so many successful people seem to spend so much time planning. Over time, I learned that the more time you spend planning, the better and more foolproof your plans become. In reworking your plans for achieving your goals become increasingly believable and achievable. Your confidence in your ability to accomplish them grows. When you break down even the biggest goal into its individual parts, and then organize the goal into a step-by-step series of specific actions, it seems much more manageable and under your control. Not only that, the more you plan, the more you drive the goal into your subconscious mind, where it takes on a motivational power of its own. Payoff from good planning is enormous. It is estimated that 1 minute in planning saves at least 5 minutes in execution. Put another way, your investment in planning pays you a 500% return. Since all that most of us have to sell is our time, the more productive and efficient our time usage, all other things being equal, the more we will eventually be paid. Can you get a 500% return on investment doing anything else? Sometimes people say that they do not have time to sit and plan. The fact is that even if you really force yourself, it is hard to spend more than a few minutes per day in planning, and the only way you will ever get the time you need is by planning your activities carefully in advance. On the other hand, action without planning is the reason for every failure. If you look back over the major mistakes you've made in your life, they will almost all have one thing in common. That one thing is that you had a tendency to rush into the situation without thinking enough about it. You either did not get enough information, or you did not take the time to weigh and balance the pros and cons before acting. You will also find that each of the most successful accomplishments of your life was accompanied by a good plan. The more time you took to think through the ramifications of your actions, the better, the more efficient, and the more satisfying was the end result. In fact, the better and more complete your plans, the greater likelihood of success. Someone once said that success is tons of discipline. One of the best exercises of self-discipline is to take the time to think through and plan out everything you do before you begin. Here are 4 ideas you can use to help yourself in getting organized. 1. Remember that neatness is a key habit for personal productivity. You can dramatically increase your productivity simply by cleaning up and organizing your workspace. There is a saying, order is heaven's first law. Well, order is Earth's first law too. You need a sense of order to feel relaxed and in control of your environment and your life. You actually get a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction each time you put some part of your life or work in order. When you clean up your desk or office, when you clean out your car, when you organize your purse or briefcase, or even your home and your closets, you feel like a more effective human being. A good exercise is to stand back from your desk and ask, what kind of a person works at that desk? Look in your purse or briefcase and ask, what kind of a person would have a purse or a briefcase like that? Look at your car, look in your closet, look at your house and your yard and ask, what kind of a person would live that way? Would you entrust that person with an important task? Why or why not? Stand back and honestly evaluate yourself as if through the eyes of a neutral third party. What do you see? In a series of interviews conducted recently, 50 out of 52 executives said they would not promote a person with a messy desk or messy work environment. Even if the person was producing good work, they said they would not trust a position of responsibility to a person who could not get himself organized. Think about that. Many people who work in a messy environment use their intelligence to justify and excuse themselves. They say things like, I know where everything is, or they say humorous things like, a clean desk is a sign of a sick mind. However, every single time and motion study of efficiency in the workplace concludes that these are really exercises in self-delusion. The person who says he or she knows where everything is using too much of their mental capacity remembering where they place things rather than doing the job. People who say they work well in a cluttered environment are usually wrong. If they worked in a neat, well-organized environment for any length of time, they would be surprised at how much more effective and productive they were. If you or a person you know has a tendency to justify a cluttered desk, challenge yourself or the other person to work with a clean desk for one entire day. The result will be interesting. Clear your desk of everything but the one thing you're working on. If necessary, place things in drawers, on the credenza behind you, in the wastebasket, in cupboards, or even on the floor. Do whatever is necessary to turn your desk into a clear, clean, uncluttered work environment with just one thing, the most important thing before you when you begin. The second idea for getting yourself organized follows from the first. It is to have everything you need at hand before beginning. Like a good cook or a master craftsman or any professional, assemble all the tools of your trade before starting on the job. Get all the information that you will need. Get pens, notepads, stick-on notes, calculator, ruler, dictaphone, file folders, and anything else you can think of before you commence work. Idea number 3 is to resolve to handle every piece of paper only once. Make a decision to do something with it when you pick it up, and don't pick it up unless you're ready to act on it. It is better to stack it up and put it aside for appropriate action later. Stephanie Winston, in her book, Getting Organized, recommends that you use what she calls the TRAF system, where the word TRAF is spelled T-R-A-F. Each letter stands for a specific action. T stands for toss. One of the best time management tools in any home or office is the wastebasket. The fastest way to save time in reading anything is to simply throw it away. This applies to junk mail, unwanted subscriptions and catalogs, sales circulars, and anything else that is not relevant to your goals. Use the wastebasket to get rid of reading materials that have been hanging around for months. Ask yourself, if I did not read this, would there be any negative consequences? If the answer is no, then throw it away as fast as you can. The next letter in the TRAF system is R. R means to refer or delegate. When you pick up a piece of paper, ask yourself if there is someone else who should be acting on this. Is there someone else who can do it better than you? Is there anyone else to whom you can delegate action? The third letter in the TRAF system is A for action. These are the pieces of paper, letters, proposals, and so on that you must personally do something about. So get yourself a file folder and put the word action on the tab. Have the folder handy. When you come across something that you need to do something about, simply put it in the file to work on later. The last letter is F, which stands for file. But before you file anything, remember that 80% of papers filed are never needed, used, or seen again. Designating something to be filed creates work. Before you decide to put something in your files, ask, what would happen if I couldn't find this piece of paper? Ask, what would be the negative consequences of not being able to have this information available? If there are no negative consequences, or very little would happen, or if you could get the information somewhere else, then throw the piece of paper away. By the way, I initially found it quite difficult to use the wastebasket so generously. But with experience, I have found that very little of what I have thrown away has ever been needed again. The habit of tossing rather than saving and filing has been a big time saver for me, as it has been for many others. The purpose of the TRAF system is to get you to take action on a piece of paper when you pick it up. Do something, anything with the piece of paper. Move it along at least one step. One of the greatest time wasters of all is continually picking up the same piece of paper, reading it, putting it down, and having to come back to it later, over and over. The fourth idea for getting yourself organized is, when you're finished with it, put it away. Complete your transactions. Start with a clean workspace and end with a clean workspace. There is something deeply satisfying about task completion, and that means leaving nothing out. Discipline yourself to finish what you start. Teach and encourage others to finish their work and put things away. Especially teach your children by setting a good example. One of the hardest things for people to learn is the habit of putting things away, but it is a habit that serves them all their lives. There are several time management tools and procedures you should have for maximum productivity and good organization. The first of these is some kind of time planning system that contains everything you need to plan and organize every area of your life. The best time planners enable you to plan for the year, for the month, for the week, and for each day. In your planner, for example, you need a master list where you can write down every task, every goal, every required action as it comes up. This master list becomes the core of your system. It is from this master list that individual tasks are allocated to various months, weeks, and days. The second part of a time planning system is a calendar that enables you to lay out your time and plan several months ahead. With the ideal system, you will be able to transfer individual items from your master list to the exact day when you intend to do them. The next part of your time planning system is a daily list. This daily list is perhaps the single most important planning tool you can have. Some people call it a to-do list. Alan Lakin, the time management expert, found that every effective executive he spoke with used a list. He also found that the ineffective executives, those who felt swamped by too many things to do in too little time, either did not use a list or resisted the idea of writing everything on a list. On your daily list, you write down every single thing that you intend to do over the course of the day. My experience has proven that you can increase your efficiency by 25% the first day that you start using a list if you are not using one already. You can bring order out of chaos faster with a list than with any other time management tool. In fact, if at any time you feel yourself overwhelmed with work, stop and take the time necessary to list every single thing you need to do. The very action of organizing your responsibilities on a list will enable you to bring them under your control. During the course of the day, new tasks and responsibilities will come up. Telephone calls will have to be returned. Correspondence will have to be dealt with. In every case, write it down on the list before you do it. Something that seems urgent, something that would distract you from your work, regains its real significance when it is written down. Something that is written down on the list next to all your other tasks and responsibilities often doesn't seem so important after all. The next step in time management is to organize your list of the day's activities. There are 3 keys for organizing the list. The first key is to recognize the difference between the urgent and the important. The urgent is seldom important, and the important is seldom urgent. The most pressing tasks on your list are those tasks that are both urgent and important. They have to be done immediately, and they can have significant future consequences, positive or negative. The best way to organize your list is with the ABCDE system. A stands for must do, very important. B stands for should do, important. C stands for things that it would be nice to do, but are not important. D stands for delegate, and E stands for eliminate. Look at your list and ask yourself what the 1 or 2 things are that are more important than almost all the others put together. That's where you begin. Condition yourself to use the list as a blueprint for the day. This list is like a map to show you how you're going to get from the morning to the evening in the most effective and efficient way. The list is a guide to what you have to do and what is more or less important. Refuse to do anything unless you have written it down on the list and organized it relative to its value with the other items on the list. Another wonderful tool for getting yourself organized is called the 45 file system. This is a tickler file that enables you to plan activities as far as 2 years in advance. The 45 files are divided this way. There are 31 files numbered 1 through 31 for the days of the month. There are 12 files for the months of the year, January through December. The last 2 files are for the next 2 years. This is a wonderful system, and I used to use it with 45 hanging folders in my desk drawer. Now, however, a stationery company has developed a product called Desk File, which is an expanding book with 45 pages with dates, months, and years as I described. Called Desk File, it is produced by Mead Company and is available at your stationery store. It is a terrific time management tool. Now, here are 6 more ideas you can use to help get yourself organized for maximum productivity. The first idea is to prepare your daily list for the next day, the evening or night before. The very best exercise is to plan your entire next day as the last thing you do before going home from work. When you plan your day the night before, your subconscious goes to work on your plans and goals while you're asleep. Very often you will wake up in the morning with ideas and insights that apply to the work of the day. Sometimes the answer to a problem you are working on will pop into your mind when you wake up or when you're taking a shower. A second benefit of preparing your list the night before is that it enables you to sleep more soundly. A major reason for insomnia is laying awake trying not to forget to remember something that you have to do the following day. When you write down everything you have to do on a piece of paper, it clears your mind and enables you to sleep deeply. The second idea is that scheduling your time reduces stress and releases energy. It gives you a feeling of control and well-being to know that you are organized, to know that your entire day is planned in advance. The third idea is to take time to sit, to think, and to plan. When you read the biographies and autobiographies of successful men and women, you find that almost all of them have one thing in common. They have a tendency to go to bed at a reasonable hour and to rise early. early to bed, and early to rise. Many successful people arise at 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. so that they can have the time to think and plan for the coming day. As a result, they are always more effective than those who sleep in. A few minutes of quiet reflection before you begin any undertaking can save you many hours in execution. A fourth idea is to use an organized filing system both at home and at work. As much as 30% of the time in any work environment is spent looking for misplaced items, things that are lost because they have not been filed correctly. The best and simplest of all filing systems is an alphabetical system. In conjunction with a filing system, you should have a master list. The master list gives you the title of every file that you have. The list also tells you where the file is located. One of the finest tools for an office filing system is called a Rolodex. There are all kinds of uses for a Rolodex at home as well. You can purchase them in any stationery store, and they will allow you to keep track of a variety of files in a variety of ways. There are few activities so frustrating as spending your valuable time looking for misplaced materials because no thought has been given to a filing and retrieval system. A fifth organizing idea is to do creative work during your internal prime time. Your internal prime time is the time of the day, according to your body clock, when you are the most alert and productive. For most people, this is in the morning. For some people, however, it is in the evenings. Occasionally, a writer or an artist or a rock star may find that his or her prime time is in the early hours of the morning. As men and women in the world of work, it is important that we be aware of our internal prime time so that we can schedule our most important projects accordingly. There's also external prime time. This is the time when your customers or clients are most readily available. Each person should give some thought to structuring their day around both their internal and external prime times. A sixth idea to help you in organizing yourself is to use a dictating machine for correspondence. Dictating equipment is some of the best time-saving equipment in business or private life. Once you learn how to use a dictating machine, you can cut your time of writing by as much as 80%. That is, the time it takes to dictate is about 20% of the time it takes to write something by hand. A dictating machine also saves the time of the person who's going to type it out. It is usually much easier to transcribe from a tape than to interpret a person's handwriting. In using a dictating machine, there are two things to remember. First, you write an outline. Jot down the major headings and subheads before you begin. Think through the sentence structure in your mind before you dictate onto the tape. Don't be afraid to go back, erase, and say it over again using a better choice of words. The second thing to remember while using a dictating machine is to avoid being a perfectionist. Go back and correct the major mistakes later. It's much easier to edit something that has been transcribed than to write it or dictate it perfectly in the first place. Concentrate on getting your thoughts on paper as quickly and as effectively as possible, and then go back and clean it up before finalizing. Before we leave this section on getting organized, there is one more area to talk about, and that is air travel. Since so many people are traveling by air for business today, it is important to know how to make every hour of traveling time count for yourself and for your company. Some years ago, a major airline hired a consulting firm to compare the efficiency of flying first class with working in a normal office. The study concluded that 1 hour of uninterrupted work in an airplane was the equivalent of 3 hours in a normal work environment. The key word was uninterrupted. If you plan ahead and organize your work before you leave for the airport, you can accomplish an enormous amount while you're in the air. The starting point of getting the most out of airtime is to pre-book a non-bulkhead window seat. The reason you want a non-bulkhead seat is so that you have a tray that opens up in front of you that you can work on. Also, you are not allowed to keep a briefcase during takeoffs and landings with a bulkhead seat, and your briefcase is your traveling office. The reason you want a window seat is so that you can get out your materials and go to work without the possibility of someone wanting to get past you and go to the washroom. Also, be sure to specify to your travel agent that you do not want a seat opposite the kitchen or the bathroom on the airplane. These seats are too noisy and distracting for concentrated effort. When you pack your work for a trip, organize it by subject. Sit down at your desk before you leave and think through what you are going to get accomplished when you're in the air. Then make sure you have all the information and files that you require. A useful tip is to arrive at the airport 1 hour before your departure. Most business flyers arrive with less than 30 minutes to catch the plane. This may seem to be time efficient, but studies have shown that if you arrive at the airport in a rush, it takes as much as 2 hours to settle down to the point where you can concentrate once the plane has taken off. It's much better for you to get to the airport relaxed so that as soon as you get on board, you can begin work and continue working until the plane lands. Be sure to work steadily throughout the flight. Just put your head down and stay at it without diversion. Resist the temptation to read newspapers or airline magazines. Some travelers carry a set of earphones which they use to discourage conversation from the person in the next seat. One frequent flyer I know has a great answer when his seatmate wants to make conversation. When the person next to him asks what he does, he turns to him or her and smiles sweetly and says, "I'm a fundraiser for a religious cult." This has never failed to terminate the conversation and leave him free to work peacefully for the rest of the flight. Be sure to have all materials, envelopes, stamps, and Federal Express envelopes at hand when you begin working. Your briefcase is your office away from the office and should be fully equipped with everything you require. You will be amazed at how much work you can produce in an airplane when you put your mind to it. One final point. People who travel a lot on business find that the best time to work is on the way out, when they are fresh, and the best time to relax or watch the movie is on the way back. On the way back, you're usually tired and hardly capable of productive work, so be sure to make that outbound flight count. Getting yourself organized is the starting point of peak performance. Careful planning and organizing of your work before you begin will yield dramatic improvements in your productivity, your performance, and your results.